Welcome back. All right, continuing on with the season previews, we are now up to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins, not a lot of expectations. In fact, I would say no expectations with the Pittsburgh Penguins. The vote shows that. And I think the team knows that, which would mean Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson, all these veterans know the situation in Pittsburgh. And I think there's valid questions to be asked about what the picture's going to look like, not necessarily just for this season, but beyond. And this is a team that should be in the mix for the number one draft pick this year, and we'll see how all that goes. But either way, looking at their top six, and you can see that this is not the same kind of top six that they were rolling back in 2017 or 2018. Brian Rust, Sidney Crosby, Rickard Rakell, all perfectly fine as forwards. Crosby is defying the aging process, which is impressive. But then you've got Danton Heinen, likely in that top six, alongside of Genny Malkin and Mantha being in there as well. Mantha, of course, the issue is can he stay healthy? Malkin is getting older. It is showing at this point in time he has definitely lost a step, and he's in the final year of his contract. So there's a lot of speculation there, rightfully so, because this does not look like a team that's heading towards contention anytime soon. And in the event that Malkin got moved at the deadline, I'm sure they get a pretty good return for him. He's a veteran forward, one of the best players of his generation. Now the bottom six, Lizotte, Novak, Brazo, Dewar, Hayes, and Achari. I would think these guys will be kind of interchangeable about who's on the third line and who's on the fourth line. It's a decent bottom six, but there's not a whole lot in the way of scoring beyond that top line. So if you have Russ, Crosby, Rakell, if that ends up being the top line, that's where all your scoring is going to happen. The Malkin line would generate some, but basically it's going to be all in the top line, and that's a lot to ask. Now, depth-wise, you've got Tomasino. I can't see Tomasino not being in the top 12, but I didn't really mess with the players as they're listed with Puckpedia. Rutger McGroarty is going to be trying to make it onto this roster, and as you can see from the lack of scoring depth on the wing, if he shows that ability in the preseason, at training camp at the very least, he will have a good opportunity to be in the lineup for the Pittsburgh Penguins this coming season. Imama, Puustinen, Koppinen, Koivunen, so a lot of Finns all in a row there. Poulin, Harvey Pinard is here. Harvey Pinard, we know, can be useful at times. He's had a rough couple of seasons. Hallander, Howe, Braz, and Avery Hayes also. The other Hayes. So you've got Kevin Hayes, you got Avery Hayes. Don't believe they're any relation to one another. And the depth up front, it's okay. There's a lot of guys who can jump into a bottom six role if need be, but this is not a team that is wowing with its potential at this point in time. That potential is for drafting Gavin McKenna, which everybody will have a very normal reaction to if the Penguins win a draft lottery. Keep in mind, this would be their fourth straight season in a draft lottery, and they haven't won one yet. Now, on the defensive side of things, you've got Graves, who's not really a number one defenseman, generally. Letang, Shea, Carlson. Now, they listed Wotherspoon. Again, I left Wotherspoon there. I think Dumba probably gets in ahead of Wotherspoon. And then you've got Connor Clifton, who's come over from Buffalo. You've got Alexiev on the blue line behind Dumba, or around same spot as Dumba on that list. But Owen Pickering is one to keep an eye on. If he plays well in preseason, he could win himself a job on the roster as well. St. Ivany, Caleb Jones, the others, Sebastian Aho. They've got Kemp and Pianemi as well. So, or Pianiemi. This is, I think, it's a serviceable blue line, but it is not one that screams playoffs. I don't look at this blue line and say, well, clearly, playoffs are in the offing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It is serviceable for a team that's going through a rebuild. Now, the net, well, don't have to talk about the internet, although this is posted for all you fine people on the internet. But in net, there are some questions. First off, Jari is coming off of a pretty rough season. He had some good streaks here and there, but in general, his numbers were not great. And now the backup will be Shilov's. Now, Shilov's numbers in Vancouver weren't very good either, but he did play quite well in Abbotsford in the AHL, and actually goes on and wins a Calder Cup. He was the MVP of that Calder Cup championship as well. So in the event that Shilovs is really ready to be a goaltender in the National Hockey League, he could push Jari. We could end up with a 1A, 1B situation where whoever's playing well going into that game gets that game. So maybe that pushes Jari a little bit more than Nedeljkovic did. No idea, but Nedeljkovic, of course, is gone. Bloomquist and Larson, the depth in net for them. Bloomquist was okay in his call-up, but the more games that he got, the more you could see there were some holes in his game there, and it's something that he's definitely got some potential, but you can understand why they went out and got Shilovs and didn't go with Bloomquist necessarily as the backup. So the MVP I have as Crosby because he is the best player on the team, one of the best players in the league even still, and the one to watch. I'm putting Shilovs as the one to watch. If the goaltending for Pittsburgh is better than last season, maybe they win some games. Maybe they stay in the hunt at least a little bit longer than expected. I don't see them being anywhere near the playoffs, but they have cap space, $13,053,571 according to Puckpedia. So with that amount of cap space, there's the possibility that they weaponize it, but that's something you do more around the trade deadline, and it's something I think Kyle Dubas is going to take his time with. There's no rush with this. There's no magical formula to make this team better this year, so you might as well just deal with it being a down year and then look at next summer and what you're able to do depending on what you get in the draft lottery, right? So looking at the channel vote, not a lot of optimism around Pittsburgh. 2% voted wrong and said first or second for Pittsburgh. 5% say third or fourth. So there are some optimists among Penguin fans. 27% say fifth or sixth. And 66% agree with me. I think it's going to be bottom of the division for them. Listed as 7th or 8th by 66% of the vote. And I can't find any fault in that. Pittsburgh's likely to have a pretty rough season. The good news is if you're a Penguins fan, you know that there's some sort of a plan that's come together here. Get young players, get prospects, and just continue to look towards the future. Now, the schedule, they have one brutal month. Outside of that, it's not too bad. So in October, 7 out of 12 are away from home. In November, they only play 12 games, and 7 of those are at home. So only 24 games through the end of November, and an even split in terms of how many of them are at home and on the road. In December, half their games are at home and half their games are on the road. They play 14 games, 7 at home, 7 on the road. Then in January, 8 out of 15 are at home. So things get a little bit busier in January. In February, 3 out of 5 are away from home. And then March, this is the biggest number I've written on the board so far. 9 out of 17 games in March are at home. They have 17 games in 31 days. This schedule is brutal. Then in April, 4 out of 7 are away from home. So, yeah, that month of March, that could be an interesting one for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll see what their standing is then. Odds are they're probably out of the hunt. And a lot of that'll be after the trade deadline. So you could cobble together a decent record and then just sell off at the deadline and watch as those 17 games all turn into losses, and then you get the number 1 draft pick, and the internet has a totally normal reaction. So head coach Dan Muse has got his work cut out for him. He's got a team that's not likely to be in the mix, but I don't think that's the plan anyways, so no risk to his job, especially since he just got hired and all. Now, the team's record since 2021-2022 is 18th in the league, 158 wins, 124 regulation losses, and 46 losses via overtime or shootouts. Their top 5 scorers over that time period, of course, Sidney Crosby is first. Who else would be first? 313 games, 139 goals, 223 assists for 362 points. Remember, he's not all that young, and he's still scoring at a ridiculous rate. Malkin, 273 games, 90 goals, 152 assists for 242 points. Rust, 274 games played, 103 goals, 122 assists for 225 points. Jake Gensel, who of course has now gone to Tampa, 204 games, 98 goals, 111 assists, 209 points. And Letang, 298 games played, 41 goals, 149 assists for 190 points. Now looking at top prospects, which is of course your unsigned prospects, the one of note, Benjamin Kindle. Benjamin Kindle likely not, on the radar soon, but eventually gets in, and so we'll see how Kindle works out once we start getting the young kids in the lineup, now that Pittsburgh's not trading away first-round draft picks. Their record this past season, 34, 36, and 12, so just below NHL 500. Their scoring leaders this season, of course, Crosby leads the way. 80 games, 33 goals, 58 assists, 91 points. So, yeah. Raquel, 81 games, 35 goals, 35 assists for 70 points. Rust, 71 games, 31 goals, 34 assists for 65 points. Carlson, 82 games, 11 goals, 42 assists for 53 points. And Malkin, 68 games, 16 goals, 34 assists, 50 points. Just as a tip as well, until the day comes that Sidney Crosby says, I really don't want to do this rebuild, I kind of want out of here. Until the day happens that he says that, I don't see any reason to think Crosby's going anywhere. I really feel like Crosby is now what Mario Lemieux was at one point. He was a Penguin. That was it. It didn't matter how bad they were. Yes, he was part of ownership at the time, but I feel like with Crosby it's something similar. And I would not be surprised if someday, somewhere down the road, Crosby has an ownership stake in the team, because it just feels like Crosby is a Penguin. And I can't see him going anywhere. I know there's the speculation here and there, but I'm just saying, until it comes from him, or until we hear any reports on the Penguins are shopping him, I wouldn't really pay any attention to it. Then goaltenders, Jari, 16-12-6 record, 893 save percentage. Not fantastic numbers. Nedeljkovic, 14-15-5, 894 save percentage. He did not have fantastic numbers either. So you can understand why they allow, Ned's gone, and now they've got Shilov's in there. Bloomquist went 4-9-1, his save percentage 885. Like I said, initially when he came up and was playing for them, he looked pretty good, but you could see that he still has some stuff to work on as he went through with more games, and NHL teams started getting a little bit of a book. That's what does tend to happen. Goaltenders, maybe they get a good record through their first 5 games or first 10 games against NHL opponents, and then that's where the real test comes in, because NHL teams start to figure out what their tendencies are and how they're trending and what their weaknesses could be. Now, looking at the last 5 playoffs, not a lot to talk about here for Pittsburgh, is there? So in 2021, they lost in the first round in 6 games against the Islanders. In 2022, they lose in 7 games in the first round against the Rangers. This is a team that has not won a round since 2018, and they have not been in the playoffs since 2022. In 2023, 2024, and 2025, they missed the playoffs, and it does feel like they are trending further and further in the wrong direction, unless you are a fan of the idea of them drafting high, in which case they're trending in the right direction. So looking at their numbers from this past season, their power play was good. They were 6th, 25.8%. Their penalty kill, 18th at 77.8%. Goal scoring, 18th at 2.95 goals per game. Goals against, they were 29th at 3.5 goals against per game. So the blue line needs to be better. The goaltending needs to be better if they're to even think about staying in the hunt. But based on the moves this team has made in the offseason, based on the amount of cap space they still have left, I don't think there's a pursuit of the playoffs going on. I think this is a carefully thought out rebuild. Rebuild without stripping down every single piece of NHL talent out of the lineup, at least not yet. But those full teardowns, I think, will get more and more unpopular as years go by, just because it takes forever to dig your way out of them. So that's definitely an issue. And depending on which market you're looking at, the market may not have the appetite to go through a 6 to 10 year rebuild. But we're already 3 years into them missing the playoffs. It might be another 2 or 3 before we're talking about them getting back there. It could be 5, but we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And yes, I'm wearing my Teddy Bluger jersey. I still haven't yet replaced it. And as I've been showing in the jersey videos, this has the button showing that it's from the first year of the Adidas jerseys. They didn't do it other than just that first year, and the button was mostly useless. But anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. I will talk to you again soon.